We've seen this story before with the Golden State Warriors. We thought the run was over after Kevin Durant left to play for the Brooklyn Nets. Then Klay Thompson suffered 2 consecutive season-ending injuries. And then Steph Curry broke his hand early in the 2019-20 season. They missed the playoffs for 2 straight years, and we all thought the Warriors would never get back on top. But as we know, they screwed around and won another championship. It's been only 5 months since then, and we're saying the exact same thing. Is this all premature, or is this really the end of an incredible run? Well, what does history say about this? How did it end for the few modern-day NBA dynasty teams? We might be able to get a little bit of insight from those examples, and we can use that to predict if this is the beginning of the end of the Warriors dynasty. So let's start with the first modern-day example, and that's the Showtime Lakers. Their run started in 1980 and ended in 1991. They won 5 championships and they reached the finals 9 times. How did their run end? This one is easy. Magic Johnson was forced out of the league due to the HIV virus he had. He was going to be 32 years old by the time the 1991-92 season started, and he still had a few good years left to his prime. But when you remove a player like that from your team, you're not going to be able to contend for a title. That's exactly what happened, and that marked the end of the Showtime era. So we can't really use that as an example. Now for the Chicago Bulls, this one's a little bit trickier. We all know what happened after the Bulls won their 6th straight title. Michael Jordan retired, Scottie Pippen got traded to the Houston Rockets, and Phil Jackson was dropped as the coach. There was no way the Bulls were going to be able to sustain their dominating ways after those major moves. But there are a few things that we need to keep in mind. The first thing is that the Bulls were hell-bent on getting rid of Phil Jackson and starting fresh with a new coach. That was a deal breaker for Michael Jordan, who was unwilling to play for a team that was looking to rebuild. But even if they did re-sign him, the Bulls would have to play without Scottie Pippen. He was looking for a big payday, and the only way he was going to accomplish that was by doing a sign and trade with the Houston Rockets, according to Sports Illustrated. So that core was going to get broken up anyways. Let's not forget that at the beginning of the 1998 season, Pippen publicly demanded a trade and claimed that he would never play for the Bulls. He was simply done playing for that team. He felt like upper management disrespected him too much with that horrendous contract that he signed and the various times he was in trade rumors throughout his tenure there. Could something similar be going on with Draymond Green and the way he feels he's being undervalued by upper management? He wants to get paid the way he feels like he deserves after what he's done for that franchise. But the Warriors are prioritizing their future by paying the younger talent that they have. Does the lack of intensity that he's playing with have to do with the relationship that he has with upper management? That may have something to do with it, but let's move on to the next team and talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. I want to quote something that Phil Jackson said in his book 11 Rings. He was talking about how hard it is for a team to three-peat, and he recounted something Rick Fox said to him. He said, quote, "One day early in the 2001-02 season, Rick Fox told me he wasn't feeling high anymore, and it was driving him crazy. He wasn't talking about drugs. He was referring to the spiritual high he felt during a second championship run. He said that when everybody was playing with one mind, it was a beautiful experience that made him feel higher than anything he'd ever done. Then, all of a sudden, the feeling evaporated like a dream, and he longed to get it back." End of quote. So we already know they barely won the title that year, but check out how the Lakers started their season in 2003. There was a point where they had a record of 11-19. Now Shaq was dealing with some injuries, and that surely has something to do with their slow start. But the Lakers did nothing in the offseason to get younger. This was the exact same team as the previous year, and they were showing their age. Robert Horry, Rick Fox, and Brian Shaw were all in their mid to late 30s. And after you've climbed that mountain 3 straight times, it's hard to play with that same fire and intensity. It's not there anymore, and it shows with their effort and quality of play. In the case of the Warriors, they just don't try on defense anymore. What used to be their strength is now their biggest weakness. In fact, as of right now, they're one of the 5 worst defensive teams in the league. The reality is that it takes a special team and some special players to push your team to keep striving for greatness. That's what Michael Jordan did for the Bulls for the 2 separate three-peat runs that they had. It's been well documented how tough he was on his teammates and how he expected nothing short of greatness every time they stepped on the court. He wasn't going to be a one-man show. You were going to follow his lead or else. Draymond Green has been that guy for the Warriors, someone who leads by example but also pushes his team to greatness. But something has changed this year, and he's no longer connecting to his teammates the way he has before. Maybe it's because his voice doesn't hold the same weight after the Jordan Poole incident. Maybe his teammates are just tuning him out now. Or maybe he's checked out early because he knows he's not going to get offered the money he thinks he deserves. I don't necessarily blame him for feeling that way, but it's only logical for Golden State to start building a different core around Steph Curry due to the simple fact that Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are not going to be able to play at an all-star level anymore. And they've done a good job of drafting young talent that's going to help ease the load off the original Big Three. It's very similar to what the San Antonio Spurs did in the early part of the 2010 decade. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili were getting older and were unable to carry their team far into the postseason. Let's not forget that they were bounced from the first round 2 times between 2009 and 2011. But they made a lot of good moves, most notably drafting Kawhi Leonard, and they were able to continue contending for a title until the bitter end of the Tim Duncan era. I'm willing to bet the Warriors were looking to follow that same formula. It's easy for young players to mature and progress when they are part of a winning culture like the Spurs and the Warriors. Golden State has had that foundation since day one, and that's a big reason why all the role players and young talent strive in that environment. The same can be said for teams that have played under Greg Popovich during the Duncan era, and even under Phil Jackson during the 90s and during his time with the Lakers. But here's my question. Is that there anymore? That winning culture has to be maintained and it has to be taken care of. You just can't expect it to always be there. With the Los Angeles Lakers, that foundation came crumbling down after the relationship between Shaq and Kobe took a turn for the worst in 2004. With the Chicago Bulls, we discussed how badly Pippen was ready to move on from Jordan and the Bulls. Now with the Warriors, I feel like something similar is happening. It's no accident that Steve Kerr was publicly questioning his team's quality of play and suggesting that this could be their last year. The foundation that made this team so special is quickly crumbling down. Their success was always more than just the magic of Steph Curry, and this season is proving that now more than ever. But they can still turn this around. In the case of the Showtime Lakers, the Bulls, and the Kobe Shaq Lakers, they all made the finals before big changes were made. It's still not totally out the picture that the Warriors find a way to make their version of The Last Dance special. This one's going to be a lot tougher than what those other 3 teams had to go through. But one thing's for certain, big changes are on the horizon no matter how they end their season.